Yeah, Verlin, that's a really good question. A really well phrased question, because competition as a risk is very vast and wide, and competition comes from all sorts of places, oftentimes from the place where you least expect it. I had a mentor when I got started at the Angel Fund back 10 years ago, that always was stressing competitors. He said, it doesn't matter how good your IP is, how strong your team is, how fast you move. Competition was his number one thing. And that was his section in the Angel group, and he would always grind on competition. So he taught me to be aware of it, and to not necessarily be afraid of it, but almost to go after it in a lot of ways. And so how you frame your competition, especially in some of these emerging technologies as they enter these mature markets, per earlier conversations, is really important. We all see the 2x2 grid. What the grid is, what the axes are on the grid, I think is a really under discussed conversation. We see 2,000 slide decks a year, and there's always that grid, and it's not the wrong thing to have. Upper right corner is fine, but the discussion needs to be around what are these axes and why. What if you replaced it with a different axis? What if you replaced two of them? How does that paradigm work? Could you have a three-dimensional competitive landscape? I think that the nature of it, and I know it's a little higher level, higher altitude than a lot of answers, but that is almost more important than who they are, is how you think about them. It's not always the incumbent big player. It's not always a startup. There's certainly another company out there working on your idea or has had that thought. It's all about execution and it's essentially out competing, right? Name your sports analogy. We all have that same play drawn up. It's about who executes it better.